What's up, you guys? It's your boy Spider Productions here, and today I'm here with a new video from new Rockstars. Today is they're doing an episode breakdown of Moon Knight episode 4 that just came out today. If you guys don't already know, I did see that episode this morning. I watched it earlier this morning before I went to class and everything. Today has been a very busy and long, tiring day. I would say Wednesdays and Thursdays are the days I hate. I would say I hate Wednesday the most, which I'm conflicted about because I actually like the first class I have on Wednesday. The second class, not so much. I mean, I love stop motion, which is what the class is. I just hate that it's 6:30 at night to 9:20 at night. I hate that. But anyway, so I watched the episode for Moon Knight before I left to go to class today. And I saw that new Rockstar had posted their breakdown of it, and I couldn't watch it at the time because I was out getting my hair cut. I got a whole new fresh cut. Obviously, if you guys watched my video prior, I did not have a haircut. So I'm just wearing this because I just came out from outside, and it's kind of cold in my room, so I'm turning on the heater in a bit. But I like wearing my jacket, so I personally don't want to turn on the heater and start to sweat while I'm making this video. But anyway, other than that, moral of the story, new Rockstars posted out a new video, so we're going to check this out. We're going to see what they have to talk about in this new episode of Moon Knight. A lot of things were revealed this episode. This episode was absolutely bonkers, and I'm curious to see if there were things I did not catch the first time. The only thing I noticed I didn't catch the first time was that that scene where Mark and Layla had this like little intimate moment, which was awesome. Mark punched, or Steven punched himself in the face. I was like, I thought somebody hit him with a dart or something, or someone knocked him out or something. I wasn't sure what that was because I was talking in the middle of that. But no, Mark punched him in the face because he kissed Layla, which makes a lot of sense. So yeah, I had to watch that while I was editing it. But yeah, anyway, let's get into it.
Welcome back to New Rockstars. I'm Eric Voss, and this is a breakdown of Moon Knight Episode 4, which, like
Eric?
Mark and Steven, made me scream, "Holy hippopotamus!" Turns out I wasn't that delusional for thinking some of this could be all in Steven's mind, or could I still be delusional? Probably still a bit delusional. I mean, who knows what's going on? So I'm gonna break down this episode shot by shot for the interesting details you might have missed to best explain one of the wildest twists we've ever seen in the MCU. And remember to support New Rockstars by checking out our Moon Knight-inspired Tomb of the Moon God shirt. Limited supply, running out fast. Get it over at newrockstarsmerch.com, and when you get the shirt, you're gonna unlock the added option to write in a custom shout out that will appear at the bottom of our Moon Knight after shows. And thanks to KiwiCo for sponsoring today's video.
Mark.
More about them later.
Sure.
So we begin this episode upside down as the avatar for Osiris places Khonshu Zushapti in a cubbyhole among several others. Our view only finally orients, righting itself on this close-up of Khonshu, making him our compass, our true north for what is real this whole episode, because without him this hour, Mark, Steven, all of us are lost. I like how Osiris' avatar takes this uncertain beat after placing the Ushapti, since they have clearly stonified a ton of deities, not a healthy sign, like a warden wondering, everyone is now in prison. Are the laws too strict? No, it's everyone else who's wrong. Also, Osiris may be wondering if he could be the next one. Among these figurines are a whole bunch of them, one with curved horns, another shorter one to the far left. A lot of these look like the larger statues among the chamber last episode towering over them. I wonder if the 5 members of the Ennead may have Ushapti'd their ranking elders like Atum and Shu. That could explain why 4 of the 9 Ennead members are missing. I also think that Toweret may be among these figurines, and I'll explain what that means for the final scene.
So if that's the case, then how is she free helping Mark?
Of every episode, on the back right, a Toweret Ushapti appears alongside these others, which fill in the cubby holes we see in the opening shot. That tells us that Toweret must be banished, which is a very important key to how we interpret the final scene.
Throughout this opening scene, we hear several voices chanting. As if these trapped gods and statues are all haunting Osiris, demanding to be freed. Then out in the desert, a scarab crawls up a mound and flies off. Now the scarab was, of course, the compass that was used to find Amet Sushapti. And now even this scarab compass is like, peace out, you mortals suck. Now, by the way, the hieroglyphics on that scarab were translated to the phrase, O Khepri, amid his boat, primeval one, whose corporeality is infinity, may you rescue Osiris, Amenhotep, true of voice. Khepri being the sun deity represented invented by the scarab, which Egyptians associated with the way it rolled its dung across the sand with the way Khepri rolled the sun across the sky. Now remember last episode, Stephen joined Khonshu in casting that illusion to make the heavens look like they did 2,000 years prior. And when that happened,
was that an illusion though?
Stephen's Mr. Knight mask wilted away, matching Khonshu's dissipation. Just a cool way of showing how Stephen was losing a part of himself as well, no longer having the armor and healing properties that really would have come in handy when Arthur shot him twice in the chest. But a detail that I loved here, whereas past episodes the crescent moon always shined to reflect Khonshu being at his most powerful, now notice how the moon is in its waxing gibbous phase, the exact opposite of the waning crescent in the lunar cycle, which is a cool way of showing Khonshu's inverted, totally weakened state now. Actually, by the way, in the credits of every episode of the season, on the written by title card, it reflects the way the phases of the moon shift episode after episode from waxing crescent
I've noticed that
to now in this
people
episode,
have talked about
gibbous. Layla pulls a Jurassic Park Dr. Alan Grant and lights a flare to direct Harrow's men away from the passed out Stephen, and then insanely throws another lit flare into their box of shells to set them all off like fireworks, even though in the shot from behind her, she is clearly totally exposed to all of those projectiles, as is Stephen. Folks, the Indiana Jones antics go way over the top this episode, and I truly think it is by design to suggest Mark could be pulling all this from his Tomb Buster movie. Actually, as they drive into the desert the next morning, these locations were the same parts of Jordan where they shot Indiana Jones The Last Crusade, so that familiarity is
What? Oh, what? I mean, I know they said this was Indiana Jones mixed with Fight Club, but what?
Were the same parts of Jordan where they shot Indiana Jones The Last Crusade, so that familiarity is totally intentional. Meanwhile, Tom always look in this show and the way she plays Layla definitely evokes Rachel Weisz from the Mummy movies. I really think these cinematic parallels are all by design. Layla and Stephen agree to keep Mark out of it.
We are not, it's just you and me and the open road.
God damn memes. Sorry, y'all.
From here.
The camera lingers on these 3 bullet holes in the windshield, which you could see as representative of the 3 altars we think make up Mark's mind. The way that the holes can be in there without breaking or shattering the whole thing, because Mark is not broken. Those 3 altars we assume are Mark, Stephen, and Jake Lockley. As of this episode, we had not yet met Jake. They pass a goat who stares them down. In addition to the Christian associations between goats and evil, there was that moment with Stephen and Harrow in episode 2.
Yes.
Where there is a goat, there is a hero. Now, when Stephen initially wants to make a move on Layla, Mark punches his own face in the jaw.
Yeah.
Another Fight Club reference, Tyler Durden does essentially the same thing.
Oh.
And then after going back and forth with Layla, Stephen finally makes his move, and it is awkward.
I'm gonna go down.
Very awkward. I mean, it's obvious he wanted to do that, though. But.
Yeah, Stephen totally misinterpreted down to mean not belay, but yeah, another kind of down.
That's exactly what I was saying.
Geeks out.
I literally made that joke because I didn't realize what they were doing while I was talking at that time. But no, I made that same joke, like when he was saying, "Oh, this is one of the greatest adventures, or this is one of the greatest moments of my life." The adventure, I mean, and obviously she just came up from below his waist, making it seem like she was doing something else. It was so funny. I made that joke already.
Belay, but yeah, another kind of down, a sex kind.
Yes.
Stephen geeks out at the statues down there.
They're just like stand on guard for centuries.
Right? Look, I can't even. So if they just sprang to life right now and asked me a riddle for passage, I'd be thrilled. I shit myself, but I'd be thrilled.
Yes, he's referring to the riddle of the Sphinx. The Sphinx being the creature with the haunches of a lion, the wings of a bird. It's best known from Greek mythology, where it has the head of a woman, but in Egyptian mythology, it has the head
What
of
the
a
hell was that?
It's best known from Greek mythology.
Them things is a liability on a beast like that. I'm just saying, you have no maneuverability with that. I'm gonna just leave it there.
Where it has the head of a woman, but in Egyptian mythology, it has the head of a man. To the Greeks, it guards the city of Thebes, where it posed the riddle to Oedipus. What creature has one voice, yet becomes 4-footed, and then 2-footed, and then 3-footed? And Oedipus answered, correctly, man, who crawls on all 4s as a baby, walks on 2 feet as an adult, and uses a walking stick in old age. 3 beings in one also parallels Mark and his altars, each of whom have a different stride, yet speak in one voice. And one cannot help but draw a connection to the caned figure of Arthur Harrow, who ends this episode using his his walking stick. This is also, of course, a big clue for the reveal of Alexander the Great. For the way Egyptian iconography and obelisks and sphinxes made their way into Greece was because of Alexander's occupation of Egypt and his obsession with Egypt. In the sand, Layla traces the Arabic letters, going from right to left, because that's how Arabic works, Ain and Elif, her father's initials, as we saw her full name on her passport last episode, Layla Abdallah El Faouli. Abdallah meaning servant of God, which is a bit ironic because Mark is trying to keep her from being a servant to the god Khonshu. While exploring the tunnel...
When I have kids, I need them to have names that paraphrase something. Their names need to be unique, because her name is unique and it's awesome. And it's so beautifully done, and she is probably the best original character that the MCU has created, because I've never heard of Layla before this show in the Moon Knight comics, so I'm assuming she's a character created for the show, created for the MCU, and she is phenomenal. Like, she is awesome. I'm loving her in this so far.
Layla says,
It's a maze.
It's amazing.
No, like there are 6 paths.
Yeah, 6.
Of course, since this episode ends by suggesting much of this could have been all in Mark's mind, it's worth noting that the concept of a maze has often been considered a symbol of the subconscious mind, back to Greek mythology, the labyrinth, and then manifesting in contemporary media like Stanley Kubrick's The Shining, Westworld, and the amazing series Severance. Watch that show, it's so good. This maze represents Mark's mind, perhaps the 6 paths representing as many as 6 altars stored inside. But Stephen traces out the structure to show how this is modeled on the Eye of Horus and its 6 parts, citing the symbol that some historians interpret to represent the 6 senses of thought, sight, hearing, smell, and taste. According to mythology, Horus's right eye was the sun, and the left eye, the moon, and this is his left eye here. So the moon is always present in this show. But in the mythology, there was a fight between Horus and his brother Set, and Set tore out the eye, and the eye is later healed and restored either by Tot or by Hathor, whom we met last episode, which is why this symbol now represents healing and protection. I just like how when Stephen clears the sand to trace this, his flashlight now reflects off of the metallic surface beneath to form the Eye of Horus on the ceiling above them, as if either Horus or Hathor could be watching over their deeds here, or this represents the moon that Khonshu is watching all of this. Then they come across this mummification chamber used by these undead priests who are buried alongside the pharaoh. On the upper level, Mark finds some stuff that he says was used in regeneration rituals, which all just leads to this gore fest in the middle of the episode where the priest extracts organs from Harrow's man and tries to do it to Mark and Layla. Who knows why he's doing this? Layla comes across this gaping pit, reminding us of the chasm that Indiana Jones has to make the leap of faith across in the Last Crusade, as she has to make a bit of a
kind of thought about that
scene. Her faith and her love for Mark, despite the bad stuff he was involved with. She has to fend off this priest monster by ripping off his arm and shoving a flare in his
She was holding her own with that,
40 pieces of flare on this one. Now, this zombie priest makes a clicking sound.
Clicker!
Which sounds pretty creepy, but this is actually the result of his tongue being removed from the embalming process. Also, assuming his eyes were removed in that process as well, the clicking allows him to echolocate his targets around the tomb, the way bats use similar clicking sounds. And when his hand reaches out of the wall at Layla, it's very similar to the frame of the corpse hand reaching into the subway door in the comics when Mark's mental hospital reality warps around him. Meanwhile, Stephen finds some Macedonian language on the foot of the tomb. Actually, if you translate the back half of those letters, they really translate to Alexander, confirming this huge discovery for Stephen.
I think we're looking at the long-lost tomb of Alexander the Great.
Whoa! So, Alexander the Great, you should know this guy. He was the one who, by the age of 30, led the Greeks to rule over one of the largest empires in human history, from Europe to India. Alexander was a lover of Egyptian history who also bore the title of Pharaoh. He founded the city of Alexandria, where many believe after his death in Babylon in 323 BC, he could now be buried somewhere in the city of Alexandria. But his tomb has never been pinpointed and verified. So, unless this is all a fantasy, and that might actually be the case, the implication here is that Alexander the Great, in the history of the MCU, was the final avatar of Ammit, and that Alexander's military feats might have been enabled by Ammit's power, and maybe even the cult-like love that Alexander inspired could have been the same kind of cult following that Arthur Harrow now enjoys. Famously, the saying goes that Alexander wept because there were no worlds left to conquer. Therefore, Alexander might have been that past avatar who betrayed Ammit. He could have been the one who sold her out to the gods, and her detachment from him is what led to his death in Babylon. After which point the Ennead said, Ammit, you have helped out humanity way too much. No one should have conquered that much turf. You a statue. And then had someone stuff that statue in his mouth. You wanted her to be a voice eater! Eater! I like how on Alexander's chest is a scarab necklace with its wings open, evoking Harrow's scarab compass that he used to find her, X marking the spot for Ametsushapti, which is buried deep in Alexander's gullet. Alexander's axe that he's holding might have actually been the one he famously used to cut the Gordian knot. But Harrow reveals to Layla that Mark was among the mercenaries who killed her father, and she confronts him.
I'm talking to you. I'm talking to you, Mark!
Yeah, Steven immediately nopes out of this awkward marital drama. And I just like how the frame breaks the rule of 180 to show this transition, awkwardly cutting so that Oscar Isaac now switches to the right side of the frame. And Mark affirms that while he did not kill Layla's dad, he was still there.
My partner got greedy and he executed everyone at the dig site. Shot me too. I was supposed to die that night.
I'm assuming this partner was Frenchie DeCamp, whose name appeared on Mark's flip phone. Promo footage has shown the moment Mark first got possessed by Khonshu. I assume next episode or episode 6 will show us what this backstory was. Harrow and his men.
Hold the hell up! That was... I've never seen that shot before. Is that supposed to be a shot from the origin? Jesus. Looks really cool.
Possessed by Khonshu DeCamp, whose name appeared on Mark's flip phone. Promo footage has shown the moment Mark first got possessed by Khonshu. I assume next episode or episode 6.
Oh, promo footage showed this? I've never seen this on any promos, as far as I'm aware. Wow, okay.
6 will show us what this backstory was. Harrow and his men arrive.
The rest is silence.
Yes, another Shakespeare reference! After Macbeth's Something Wicked in episode 1 and the Romeo and Juliet Verona Light of episode 2, the rest is silence are the final words spoken by Hamlet in Hamlet, after his long, drawn-out death from being cut with a poisoned sword in his duel with Laertes. After that cut, Hamlet actually goes on and on for nearly 100 lines. So, Shakespeare ends his life with those words in almost a self-satirical tone, like the kid finally shutting up after going back and forth on death for 5 acts. When you think about it, the line is actually a pretty good pun. The rest is silence. But also, the rest is silence. And in this, we can draw a comparison with Mark, whom much speculation has wondered might already be dead. And this whole series is his passage through the field of reeds.
And did it suck for you? Getting rejected from the field of reeds?
Well, that don't make sense, because I'm not dead, am I?
Stevie.
Am I?
And Harrow is now preparing to lay the final nail.
Because he did die.
Harrow does this by shooting Mark twice in the chest. And Mark slowly falls backward, matching the fall last episode when he blacked out. Similarly, Mark is out of control, not sure what form he's going to wake up in. Because he passes out from overhead in just inches of water, but when we cut to him from below, we are now several meters deeper than him in that water as he descends into this sunken place. Where now you'll notice the bullet holes are gone from his chest, showing how Mark has sunken from his passage of the field of reeds, now more like that sunken boat and poor sarcophagus in the tank, as we saw Mark reflected submerged in that tank in episode 2. Now clearly Moon Knight is redefining the future of the Marvel hero, and our friends at KiwiCo are redefining the future of play. KiwiCo sent me this box kit for everything I need to make my own pin.
If you guys want to support them in their cause, you should probably do that.
Off your first month of any KiwiCo subscription. Let's try to summon that suit again. Ooh, it hit the spinny part. Isn't that all we're trying to do? Just hit the spinny part. And now we find ourselves in this low-budget jungle set of Tomb Buster, a title clearly an Indiana Jones ripoff. Even its name a nod to the Tomb Raider franchise. But this scene is totally similar to the opening of Raiders of the Lost Ark when Indy and Doc Ock found the remains of the previous adventurer.
Yeah.
This thing is almost note for note John Williams' Indiana Jones theme.
Maybe so. You've got pluck.
So the implication of this is that Mark might have pulled the name and the heroic expertise of Stephen Grant from this movie, almost like someone in our world manifesting an altar named Dr. Jones, a Princeton archaeologist and adventurer. But notice how instead of the Egyptian moon god, they explore the Aztec moon deity of Coyoshaki, who is depicted here with multiple faces, like the split bust of Mark that we have been seeing in the closing credits imagery. It's just interesting that while Ethan Hawke's analyst character later compares himself to the villain of this movie, this Dr. Stephen Grant really does physically resemble Arthur Harrow. His hair, his glasses, his usage of the compass. Actually, that villain in the movie is never named. For all we know, this Indiana Jones figure might end up being revealed to be the villain of that movie, the kid who looks up to him, the hero. Just like as we watch Mark Spector and Stephen Grant and Arthur Harrow on this show, we don't really know who the villains and the heroes are, because Khonshu is kind of a dick. This whole twist is awesome! Several characters from the cast reappear, all of them now in this facility. Street performer Crawley is now calling bingo numbers, pulling them from his hat, which he holds out the same way his hat was always laid out in front of him in the park. The bald man fidgets with a Rubik's Cube, almost completing the white side as we saw in Steven's flat. I'm pretty sure that's the tour guide Dylan, Steven's date, sitting at the table behind the bald guy. The orderlies are Bobby, Kennedy, the fake detective, while the other, pushing us from Mark's point of view here in the wheelchair, is Billy, aka Fitzgerald. Their names were a major clue of this reveal because in the comics, Billy and Bobby are the names of orderlies who work in Mark's mental hospital. Also in the comics, Crawley is revealed to be another resident at the hospital at some point, the same way he is here. The red, yellow, and blue bowls of Jell-O are just like the brightly colored powder in all the bowls that Steven saw in the mummification room. Donna is another patient, clutching one of the plush scarabs that they sell in the museum gift shop. Throughout this, we hear the ticking of a clock, which we pass right after we see Donna, but it looks like it reads 11:25, but the hour hand ends in the shape of a crescent moon. But despite the ticking sound, the second hand of that clock is not moving. There's a cupcake cart, just like the cupcake van that Steven hijacked in episode 1. She sketches a hummingbird with Khonshu's skull, evoking both Khonshu, of course, but also the hummingbird we saw in the commune's nature footage. On the dry erase board are pinned some postcards, like the one Steven thinks he receives from his mum. Here, it is Layla who does it, so maybe the mum he thought he was connecting with was actually Layla. There's a goldfish, like Gus, on a stack of books, just like Gus's tank, in Steven's flat that is cluttered with books. Layla appears chewing on a Turkish delight, just like the one in episode 3.
Those are Turkish delights, really? Those are the same things that Zemo was trying to give to Sam and Bucky, except those are like marshmallow things. Those are like marshmallows. The Turkish delights that he was having was like little candies. Interesting. I wonder how that works, but interesting. Okay.
Next in this facility, notice how she has a little bandage on her pinky finger with a red drawing of a scarab on it. This is a major clue pointing to the possibility that Layla Abdallah al-Faouli could be an adaptation of Abdul Faul, aka the Scarlet Scarab, an Egyptian warrior who led the Sons of the Scarab who fought against
Captain America. He fought against the invaders? So this was when Captain America, this is when my boy Cap was still in the past, fighting. What? Cap's been on some wild adventures, bruh.
The invaders, Cap, Human Torch, Namor, Bucky.
Yeah. Cap, Human Torch, Namor, Bucky. I don't know why there were 2 Human Torches, but yeah.
Spitfire and Union Jack. As other titles have done,
Spitfire is what it was, okay.
Retconning Flag Smasher as Carly Morgenthau and Laura Barton as Mockingbird, Layla could be reframed as the successor of a lineage of Egyptian protectors. A man behind them gardens, like the gardeners at Harrow's commune. Layla says he won at bingo, holding up his card that shows the following numbers dabbed. B83, I23, N86, G65, G35, O67, and O55. And throughout this, we heard Crawley call out the numbers B22, G15, T16, O40 something, O73, and N39. Folks, if you've ever played bingo, these numbers make no sense. The B numbers go 1 through 15, I is 16 through 30, N is 31 through 45, G is 46 through 60, and O is 61 through 75. Most of these letters and numbers would not exist in bingo. Also, Crawley clearly said T16, as in Tango 16, and there is no T in bingo. In high school Spanish class, I played a Spanish version of bingo called Tango, where you say, yo, Tango, I have it. Hey, bingo! Then a medicated Mark falls out of his wheelchair, but the harness on his ankle causes him to fall on the exact same side of his face that he fell in episode 1 when he landed in the Alps, and episode 2 when he leapt out of bed. I love how those 2 moments set up this reveal here. In his hand is this hooded and caped Moon Knight action figure, which if Moon Knight ain't a really known hero in the MCU at this point, would there be an action figure of him? Also, another weird thing, what was he dabbing his bingo card with? I didn't see a dabber in his hand. Then on to Harrow's office, Mark sees his painting.
Actually, I said this in my reaction, which was really funny. That Moon Knight action figure, if I can go back to it real fast,
this hooded and caped Moon Knight action figure, which if Moon Knight ain't a really known hero in the MCU at this point, would there be?
So that Moon Knight action figure, I set this into my reaction, is literally this figure right here, which I found that very fucking funny, because I bought this figure specifically so I could prepare for this show, only to literally see it in the show, and I could tell, because this is how I'm a nerd, so I can tell. The arms
as you can see here, are like wrapped around circles, and the fist has a crescent moon on it. There, it looks like the crescent moon on the figures is kind of hard to see, but those circles on the wrists, you can see that. You can obviously see the body mold, the body size, and the body type. You can see that the belt he has is painted with gold. It's hard to tell the crescent moon though, because it's not there. And then you see the hoodie, the head hoodie has been completely changed out, and I guess he just got some materials to make a new head for it. And the cape is obviously a cloth cape instead of the plastic cape here, which probably would make this figure twice as better if it had a cloth cape. And yeah, so I'm a nerd, that's how I know this. But yeah, when I saw that figure, I was like, wait a minute, is that? Because it looked just like this figure, and I took a better look at it. I was like, wow, I've never seen a Marvel show have a figure based on a comic book version of the superhero they're playing, and I just so happen to have it. Like I've never seen that before. So this show skyrocketed even more as my favorite show because of this alone. But all right, continue.
An action figure of him? Also, another weird thing, what was he dabbing his bingo card with? I didn't see a dabber in his hand. Then on to Harrow's office, Mark sees his painting of the exact landscape of the Alps where Stephen found himself in episode 1. But Harrow, now the analyst of this facility, says,
we don't live in a material world. We live in a psychic world.
I mean, Harrow's office even has a bizarre design. Big columns, tall ceilings, brick surfaces, and arches. There's these headed vases, just like the ones that the priests stored the organs inside of in the tomb. One has the falcon head of Ra, as well as the hippo head of Taweret, and this human head that I think matches the sarcophagus of Alexander the Great. Harrow has a cane that Mark assumes that he must have mapped the Amet staff over, and of course sandals, just like the ones he fills with glass. And notice how Mark sees those sandals through the reflection of a mirror. A housefly lands on Mark's hand, maybe a reflection of his rotting corpse status back in the tomb. Also reminding us of the final shot of Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho, when Norman Bates' mother voice said that she wouldn't even hurt a little fly that landed on her. Also on the desk are a bunch of sharp things that should not be on a desk of this kind of facility. There's a large curved piece that matches the shape of a crescent moon, as well as a pyramid. And if you look closely at that VHS cover,
I thought that pyramid reminded me of that little thing that Mark landed when he was fighting that jackal thing. I thought that's what that reminded me of, that little pyramid thing.
It says, when deeper in here, Stephen Grant has no fear. Which isn't the case in the final shot of the episode, but maybe a clue that Stephen Grant in a place like this is going to be the more heroic figure. Dr. Harrow says,
I can't help you if you don't help yourself.
Which is what Harrow said after shooting Stephen in that tomb.
I can't save anyone who won't save themselves.
By the door is another statue, the crocodile head of Amet, and as Harrow steps up to Mark at the door, he's just framed with this close-up of his hand on the cane, the way he's been framed in several other shots, like the opening scene of the series. As Mark flees, the hallways just warp, the carts are rolling on their own, the hanging lights just swing back and forth, looking a lot like the swinging scales of Amet's justice. We've also been seeing this hallway in the closing credits imagery, flickering from the storage unit hallway into this one. And if you remember back in episode 2, the way Stephen ran down that hallway is the same way Mark runs down this one. Both of these forming a maze in his mind. In one room, he finds this sarcophagus. Stephen! This is the first time that the two altars have actually touched physically, suggesting that they are in the same sunken place inside of his mind. They actually had Oscar Isaac's brother, Michael Hernandez, stand in for him during these scenes.
Oh, really? That's cool. He had his brother play his stand-in?
Actually had Oscar Isaac's brother, Michael Hernandez.
That makes sense. Michael would play whichever character I wasn't playing in the moment. He explains, so sometimes I'd have to arrive on set and decide which character I wanted to play first. And I'd rehearse it as that character, and then I'd play the other character and give notes to my brother. That's cool.
Hernandez stand in for him during these scenes. The smooth camera work makes it look like we never cut from Oscar Isaac at the door to Oscar Isaac coming out of the sarcophagus, but you can see there is a hidden cut on the whip pan. I also like here how Mark is dressed in light garb, whereas Stephen is dressed in darker clothes, which not only helps us distinguish the two, but also frames which one of these two altars is closer to Khonshu. Mark notices another mysterious sarcophagus that shakes in another room.
Jake Lockley!
Open. I am assuming that this is going to be the mystery third altar, maybe Jake Lockley.
Yes.
Whoever it was who stabbed those men on the roof last
Jake
episode.
Lockley.
And then we end on this awesome moment.
Bro, that was so freaking weird.
Hi.
That was so freaking weird. when that happened. I was not expecting to see a giant hippo at the end of that episode.
So this is Taweret, the Egyptian deity of childbirth and fertility, who takes on the appearance of a hippopotamus, but with otherwise human features. The kind of features Disney Plus definitely had to cover with a more modest wardrobe. I just love the hippopotamus animation detail. Kind of features Disney Plus definitely had the appearance of a hippopotamus, but with otherwise human features. The kind of features Disney Plus definitely had to cover with a more modest wardrobe. I just love the hippopotamus animation details that they added, like the way her ears wiggle when she says hi, and the way her nostrils flare. She is voiced by actress Antonia Salib, confirmed at the red carpet premiere last month, and she's credited for this episode as well as episodes 5 and 6. So we're going to be spending a lot of time. So what is going on? Well, the Moon Knight comics, especially the Jeff Lemire and Greg Smallwood.
Yeah, that was the comic that I was talking about that this episode was based on. Because I actually read a bit of that comic book when I read that comic book before, I think like a couple months before the show came out, and I was reading on some Moon Knight stuff, and I saw this comic book where apparently Mark was stuck in this mental institution where he thought everything he had been doing as Moon Knight was fake, and he was just stuck in this mental institution, and I like that it was actually shown in this show, which is crazy.
It seems most influential on this series constantly shift back and forth from Mark's supernatural experiences to a clinical setting, repeatedly making the reader second guess what could be real and what could be a delusion. This state of uncertainty is exactly what Moon Knight is supposed to feel like, and there's enough surreality and falseness in both Mark and Steven's experiences in the outside world and their experiences in the hospital to doubt the legitimacy of either reality. Even before Taweret walks in, no mental hospital looks like this. There's cupcake carts. Meanwhile, all the Indiana Jones stuff this episode was also super silly and fictitious. So is anything on this show real? Well, I see 3 explanations. First explanation, the past episodes with Steven and Mark in the outside world was all a fantasy constructed by a patient in a mental hospital, a patient who still suffers from delusions while in this hospital. Kind of like how all of St. Elsewhere was in the mind of autistic child Tommy Westfall. The patient who dreamt all this up might be neither Mark nor Steven, who, if you think about it, are both pretty heightened realities, but rather a more grounded figure. The guy in the other sarcophagus, maybe Jake. Explanation 2, everything we have seen happen pre-hospital is real, but now, after he got shot, Mark slipped into a kind of limbo state deep in his subconscious that
I would assume that's the case. Option 2.
Takes the form of a mental hospital filled with people and images from his life. Like Dorothy Gale after she hit her head and went to Oz, or like Tony Soprano when he had that hallucination after he got shot. But explanation 3. Mark Spector has already been in the process of dying. A long, drawn-out process like our boy Hamlet. And this whole time, he has been passing through the field of reeds. The brooms were the reeds, folks. All 4 of these episodes, a purgatorial judgment process for a man with DID to reach peace with his altars before the rest is silence. I mean, I don't know, but this 3rd explanation might help us understand what this hospital now is, why it is filled with sarcophagi and Taweret. Now, yes, the hindquarters of Amit are that of a hippopotamus. Maybe they're gonna draw a parallel with Amit being 3 in 1, the way Mark is. And here, Amit's altars are depicted as separate people. But again, Taweret is her own deity, the goddess of fertility. I don't see how fertility applies much to what Steven and Mark are going through, but there was a connection in the past, if you remember episode 1, when Steven handled some of those plush Tawerets while doing inventory in the museum.
Bring those hippos up here, will you?
Yeah, sure. Taweret. Hippo. Goddess Taweret.
Which is why I think there could be more to the opening images of this episode. The wall filled with the Ushaptis. Dozens and dozens of gods trapped somewhere. There was that one interesting line from Dr. Harrow where he quoted the villain of Toonbuster.
No tree can ascend to the light of heaven if it doesn't descend to the depths of hell.
Heaven and hell, above and below. Khonshu accused the members of the Ennead for hiding in the Overvoid. Now, I think we could be in the MCU's underworld, a realm that may end up going by many names in the MCU, maybe even has already been introduced in the form of the Ancestral Plane. This is a subjectively psychic dimension where reality manifests itself in the eyes of the beholder. To a DID patient, a mental hospital with Egyptian flair. Because trapped in him with this realm of Mark and his altars and projections of people in his life are the other Egyptian gods that the Ennead banished to the underworld. Amit, Khonshu, and this sexy-ass Taweret. No tree can ascend to the heavens without descending to the depths of hell is also a paraphrase of a quote from famous philosopher and psychoanalyst Carl Jung, who said, quote, quote, no tree, it is said, can grow to heaven unless its roots are in hell. This was Jung's way of saying human enlightenment is impossible unless we recognize our inner demons that collectively haunt us. This being a reflection of this stage in Mark's hero's journey to descend into hell before he can reach true consciousness. And again, since a stone Ushabti of Taweret appears in the credits of every episode, and presumably also in that wall of cubbyholes with all the other stone Ushabtis who have been exiled somewhere, that right there may be proof that we are now in the Duat, the underworld, that all exiled gods are trapped in, and Mark's soul is currently with them. Back in episode 2, when Stephen was handed a pamphlet to seek help from a mental health facility, this may all now be how his subconscious, the subconscious of a DID patient, decorates the Egyptian underworld of the Duat. This show's version of the MCU afterlife, the ancestral plane, Valhalla, wherever the hell Thanos went to. In this case, how this hero takes the plunge into the depths of hell and prepares to fight his way back out of it. And a reminder to check out our merch options at newrockstarsmerch.com, like this Doom of the Moon God shirt. It's just...
Well, I hope you guys enjoyed that.
That was awesome. That was a pretty in-depth explanation. I will say it was getting a little bit lengthy, but it was a pretty, very detailed explanation of this episode. I apologize, guys. I'm kind of clocking out because I had a long day, so I apologize. But yeah, that was a very in-depth episode explanation. I will definitely have to rewatch that a couple of times to see if there's anything else I didn't pick up on in the episode. But that is enough for me today. I hope you guys enjoyed my reaction to New Rockstars' video of the explanation and breakdown of episode 4 of Moon Knight. If you guys did, let me know in the comments down below what you guys thought of this episode, and let me know what you guys think of this breakdown. Were there things you caught? Were there things you didn't caught? I'd like to hear those suggestions down below. Hit the subscribe button. Share. That's how you know I'm tired. Hit the like button for your boy. Hit the subscribe button to be part of the community. And hit bell notifications so you guys know when I shall post next. And I'll see you guys tomorrow, because I believe we have both Flash and Young Justice videos tomorrow. So that's going to be interesting. I'm going to try to get those done as soon as I can. So, peace out.